Thank you. If you'll recall, election of officers was actually tabled at the Fallon meeting, as we did not know if reappointments or new appointments would come through, or actually none had at that point. So it got tabled. At this time, Commissioner Robb is still chair. I am still vice chair. But what I'll ask the commission is, at this point, we do have 3 reappointments, myself, Commissioner McNinch, and Commissioner Wallace. We do have 1 new appointment in Commissioner Johnston. I do not know who the 9th appointment will be at this point. So my question to the commission is, are we comfortable moving forward with an election at this time? Thoughts?
Mr. Chairman, I think, Vice Chairman, I think it's worth moving forward. I think it's not going to, with all due respect to any new commissioner that comes on, it's probably not going to change my my view on who needs to be chairman, and I think it's time to move on, get it done.
Okay. I would concur with that, but any other thoughts? I see a lot of head nodding. All right. I don't believe we need to take formal action on that, Dag Newton, at that point.
I agree.
So at this point, what I would do is I would call for nominations of a chairman. Any nominations for chair? Mr. Morai?
I nominate Vice Chairman Drew for chairmanship.
I will accept that nomination. Any other nominations at this point for chairman? Seeing none, before we go to a vote on that, I will take it out to public comment. This is an action item. Any action or public comment, any public comment on nominations of chair? Seeing none at this time, all those in favor of Commissioner Drew as chairman, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? I'm going to abstain, so at this point, 6, 0, and 1. I will be chairman for the next year. I sure appreciate the confidence of this board. It is an honor for me. We obviously have a big responsibility. It hasn't necessarily been the funnest over the last year. We've dealt with a lot of heavy issues, but I'm proud to serve with a tremendous group of people and for a tremendous purpose. So thank you for instilling that trust in me. At this point, I would open it up for nominations for vice chair. Any nominations for vice chair? Commissioner Morai?
I nominate Commissioner Wallace for vice chair.
I have a nomination for Commissioner Wallace. Commissioner Wallace, would you accept that nomination?
I will accept the nomination.
Okay. Any other nominations for vice chair at this time? Seeing none, this is an action item. I'll open it up for public comment. Any public comment on vice chair? Seeing none, all those in favor of Commissioner Wallace as vice chair, please signify by saying aye.
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 I will abstain as well.
Okay. I was an aye as well, so again, 6-0 with 1 abstaining. Wallace. So Commissioner Wallace, congratulations, you are our new vice chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it, guys.
With that, I will formally call the meeting to order. Suzanne, could I please get roll call? Here.
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 All right. County Advisory Board members, could you please let us know who's in the audience today?
Paul Dixon, Clark. Gil Yannick, Carson. Miles Humphreys, Washoe. Lynn Bunch, Mineral. Joe Crane, Pershing. Bob Cook, Douglas.
All right, thank you. At this point, I will go to agenda item number 3, approval of agenda for possible action. Have the commissioners had an opportunity to review the agenda? Any questions, comments, or changes on the agenda? Seeing none, this is an action item. I would open it up for public comment. Any public comment on approval of agenda? Seeing none, I'll move it back to the commission and entertain a motion. Commissioner McNinch?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve as presented.
Second.
I've got a motion by Commissioner McNinch, second by Vice Chair Wallace, to approve the minutes as written. All those in favor of approving the agenda?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes unanimous. Agenda item number 4, member items, announcements, and correspondence. Any commissioners with any items, announcements, or correspondence? Commissioner Bliss?
No? There you go. Okay, this meeting, we usually discuss some of the fishing regs and stuff like that, and with some of that not on the agenda and a place not to talk about it, I just had a couple questions, and one of them is just the status on Cummins Lake. I've had some folks ask me from White Pine County what the status of the lake is and the schedule for poisoning and reintroduction of fish into that lake.
John, can you address that, status of Cummins Lake?
Is this on? It's on. Different mechanism than they used to have. I'm sorry, could you repeat the question? I was,
Sure, sorry. I just curious what the status of Cummins Lake is as far as the schedule that you have in place for, poisoning the lake and then reintroducing fish. There's been some questions, just by some folks in White Pine County, again, about what the deadlines are and if you guys have gotten any further on it.
our current plans are still that we'll be doing the planning and set up for that this year with the intention of hopefully being able to move ahead in 2015. We've got a number of issues. I mean, we're going to have to go through a process with the Fish and Wildlife Service and probably write a full EA, environmental assessment of sorts, before we can proceed. Because of the size of the project, I think it's a little bit complex because we need to make a determination on how we want to approach Bassett as well, because with pike and Bassett as well, we need to make sure we're approaching everything in a comprehensive manner so we don't still have a seed source on the landscape. But at this point, we're still looking at hopefully the same timeline and being able to move ahead by probably fall of 2015 with eradication and then restoring the fishery hopefully by 2016.
Okay. Did you, the last time that you guys drained the lake down and treated it, did you have to have an EA and go through that whole process to be able to do that, or is it just because of the Bassett Lake part of it that you're going to have to do a full EA, because that could take longer than a year and put you way off schedule?
I don't think so necessarily. I don't think it's a timeline thing that it will really necessarily affect the timeline. I think I honestly don't know what level of consultation we had to do on the previous treatment, but there's, I guess I would characterize it as enhanced sensitivity to that now with the Fish and Wildlife Service with federal aid. So we're probably going to have to go through a few more steps than we have previously because of the size of the project. I still don't anticipate that's going to affect our timeline.
Okay. And then while you're there, I'll switch lakes on you and ask about has there been any discussion or further discussion on the Ruby Marsh water levels and the use of that water with the rubies?
Tony, I'll let the director follow up on that.
I've had a number of conversations with the regional director out of Sacramento on water management out there. There's currently a vacancy at the refuge manager position. They are planning on filling that, and we're discussing coordinating a field trip out there to look at the water management plan and discuss future water management. The hope is that with the filling that vacancy that now exists, it'd be a good opportunity for us to encourage them to implement their water management plan, which is consistent with our fishery goals out there.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had, Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other commissioner items at this time? Commissioner McNinch?
Thank Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tony, are you going to talk about the meeting up at the TRPA committee as part of your department activities? Can you?
Yeah, I can certainly do that.
Okay, thanks.
I have just a couple briefly. Yesterday, we had a really good tour out to Hemingway Park in Boulder City. We had opportunity to enjoy the bighorn sheep out there and see the interpretive displays. We spent some time at the lake looking at the decontamination station for the mussels and other invasive species, and had an opportunity to look at NDOW's fleet there at the marina. And I just wanted to express my gratitude to the department for putting that together, and also to the commission for taking the time out of their busy schedule. I think that sort of thing is very important for us, because I think sometimes we lose context of how some of this stuff gets implemented in the field. And so it's very helpful for me personally as a commissioner to see that going on in the field and really learn about the day-to-day operations of NDOW, so that we understand when we're talking about those issues, we have a visual to put into context. So Tony, thank you to you and all your staff. They did a great job on putting that together yesterday. My second one is that I would congratulate the two other reappointments, Commissioner McNinch and Wallace, and thank them formally for their dedication, willingness to serve another 3-year term. And the same goes for our new commissioner, Mr. Johnston. Congratulations and welcome aboard. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll move to item number 5, County Advisory Boards to manage wildlife member items. If there's any county advisory boards that would like to present emergent items at this time, please come forward. No action can be taken. Mr. Bunch.
Glenn Bunch, Mineral County. Up in the north, I was approached a couple of weeks ago by the Sportsman's Club of Mineral County. They wanted to know what could be done to change the dove season opening from September 1 to maybe 2 weeks earlier. I advised them it's set by the feds. They said, well, rules are meant to be changed. What would it take to look into it? The dove are there 2 weeks before, but by September 1, the dove have all come to Vegas where they know it's safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. We'll see if we can find an answer to that. Any other CAB member items at this time? Douglas CAB. Mr. Cook.
Yes, sir. Bob Cook, Douglas County. There's been concern for our CAB and Lake Tahoe and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Nevada Department of Wildlife, California Fish and Game, with the reintroduction of the Lahontan cutthroat trout, Lake Tahoe. It's been ongoing surveys and all kinds of things the Fish and Wildlife Services had money allocated for, and it's really hard to get the Fish and Wildlife Service to communicate and let us know what they're doing and what their plans are for the future. And the only reason I'm speaking about it now is because I just want to raise the awareness. I did talk to John yesterday, and I intend to talk to Kim, and I intend to send an email to Stephanie Byers and Lisa Heckey and try and get the communication going again. Also will involve Sudeep Chandra, so that we're all in the same loop. And I just am asking for your help as far as the communication goes moving forward, so that we can try and get the Fish and Game to cooperate with us and let us know what their results are. I've been asking them for 2 years for recent results of all our studies with the zooplankton and everything else they've been doing, and they just kind of clammed up. So I appreciate any help you might be able to give us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Carson City, Gil.
For the record, Gil Yana, Carson Advisory Board. At our board meeting, I guess the main topic of conversation had to do with the results of the issue on trespassing and demerits. And we really appreciated the fact that Chief Game Warden Turnipseed made it very clear to everybody there, and our representative from the meeting came back with a copy of the NRS that made it very clear about the issue that a citation would not be issued unless it was clearly provable that the land upon which somebody might be trespassing was properly marked. And a lot of people who had been out in the field for many, many years really didn't recognize the fact that the fluorescent orange had to be there, visible, 1,000 yards. So it really calmed everybody down. And the fact that if you were unlucky enough to find yourself in that situation and wind up with, 9 demerits by taking the hunter's safety course again, you could remove 4 more of those demerit points. So it made it a lot more palatable for everybody once it was explained what the rules were and how you could abate some of the demerits. So we wanted to, thank everybody for making that clarification. Helped an awful lot. Thank you.
Any other cab items? Seeing none one more. Washoe.
Washoe has brought up, Miles Humphreys for the record, is brought up through not only the cab but through various friends and other people. I don't really know how to put it in context, but one of the things that I want to express is how maybe the board can bring awareness to the county advisory boards, the meetings and whatnot, because a lot of people, they don't really know about the meetings, and also that the state board kind of give like an explanation of the importance of the county boards, because we put in a lot of time and whatnot, and it seems like I've heard a lot of chatter about the board not really taking a lot of the county's opinions into consideration, because the public comes to us, they hammer us, and then we're supposed to relay that to you guys. And it seems like there's just a lot of conflict or whatnot. But I guess the biggest question would be is how the board and maybe the department can get the information more readily available and seen for more people to participate in some of the heavy topics that we have going on. And that way they can come to the county boards and the meetings and know a little bit more about what's going on versus, it seems like if you talk to a lot of sportsmen, they don't really know about a lot of this stuff. So that was one of the discussions that we talked about, and if there's a way that we could all maybe collectively think about getting that out there, then that would be a great benefit. So that was one of the things. I had something else, but that was one of the big chatter topics that we had going. So thank you.
Thank you for the comment. Mr. Dixon.
For the record, Paul Dixon, Chairman Clark. Chair Drew and Vice Chair Wallace. Congratulations, both of you. One of the topics that we've had at least discussion about recently by several of our board members has been, it would be nice, you guys get to see the action reports as they're submitted to Suzanne, they come to you guys. Is it possible to, and looking at Tony, to have that action report distributed out to the cab chairs so they could share with their boards, even if it's before or after? There's a lot of questions about where did the other cabs sit, and there's a lot of rumors sometimes, well, all the cabs did this or all the cabs did that. Action reports many times not only have they support things, but they have dissenting views on topics where they have split votes. And a lot of that is very helpful, and I try to relay some of that when I come back to board members and talk to them. But it'd be nice if we had the action reports to back that up. And if that's possible, that would something I'd like to see start as we go into the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. Any others? I think we've almost run the gamut, so thank you for your participation, and we'll take these items into consideration and see if we can address them. All right. Seeing no other cab comment or items, I'll move to agenda item number 6, approval of minutes for possible action. The commission may approve commission minutes from August 2014 commission meetings. I believe these were all provided via email, and special thanks to staff for getting those together on what I know has been a very short turnaround from a very long meeting. So, comments on the minutes from August? Any commissioner comments, changes, or revisions? Seeing none, this is an action item. I would open it up to public comment. Any public comment on the minutes from August 2014? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board and would accept a motion at this time. Do I have a second? So I have a motion from Commissioner Young, second from Commissioner Bliss to approve the minutes as written. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any Agenda item number 7, we're going to move into Commission Regulations Workshop. Public comment will be allowed as we step through the regulations. I do want to point out that none of the regulations are for action today. This is simply a workshop. And just for the board, I do want to be clear, if we do have an item on our workshop agenda that we want to see something changed or revised going forward to the next meeting, let's be clear on that, and let's try and get that marked up so the support material that goes back out will have any recommended changes, and we're all very clear on that. So with that, number 7, Commission General Regulation 439, Water Ski Towable Devices, LCB file number R108-14, Gabe Morton, Captain, David Fiffner.
Good morning, everyone. This is a regulation that is somewhat of a cleanup regulation. Back when our boating laws were written, everybody just towed water skis. Now there's a number of devices that are out there, tubes. There's water ski devices that they are like a snowboard with just one ski. So we need to kind of clear that up because we have a number of areas that are not able to accommodate those towable devices, and we've had that for years, such as Black Canyon in front of Hoover Dam, the Narrows as you're going into the Virgin Basin. They're very narrow canyons. People like to take their it's hard enough sometimes to traverse 2 boats through there. Sometimes people will take their tubes. It is already marked, well marked with buoys, but they like to take their tubes in there and the tubes start swinging back and forth. Sometimes the canyon walls get very close to the tubes. We have a number of accidents, or there's other vessels that are coming down here. So this regulation is just to clean that up, to include those tubes and other similar devices that they're going to come up with, and there's a number of them out there right now, kind of on the verge. It's going to even change our job a little bit more. I mean, flyboards that are operating off of jet skis, you fly them in the air with a pump, and so we'll probably be bringing some things back to you in the future in regards to safety regulations. But right now, we're just looking at including those other towable devices, not just water skis, because we've had some comments from individuals. Hey, I'm towing in this area. I'm not water skiing. I'm towing a tube. Well, quite honestly, those tubes are much more dangerous than the water skis. The water skiers can control themselves. Usually those tubes are just, when they're being pulled behind, they're just at the mercy of the driver of the boat, because they could go right, left, and if they don't really know what they're doing and they could get injured, go in front of a boat, have a collision, or go into one of those cliff areas.
Dave, will those be marked by buoys, or how are you going to?
Yeah, what we're thinking about, we're trying to come up with some wording, because on Lake Mead in particular, most of that area is controlled by the Park Service, and they also do the buoy system under an MOU with the United States Coast Guard. And we're going to change it to towable devices and put those on. We've had some discussions. We're not there yet. We were kind of, we have to wait till the regulation is actually passed, because we can't be putting that out there before that happens. And we have one area in Laughlin that we control, and it's a small area, it's a no-wake zone, but we'll still put some buoys with properly marked under Coast Guard regulations.
Other commissioner comments or questions at this time? Commissioner Lane.
I guess I'm just trying to understand, I'm looking at number 2. So you're saying that at Lake Mead, at Boulder Canyon and Lake Mead, that it's allowed except any area marked with signs or buoys or both, or it's not allowed at all?
It has to be marked with a buoy and or signage. Most of those, the reason we put the signage in, we had an issue in some of our own waterways, so people could understand it. But to be really enforced, they have to be marked with a buoy. We're not just gonna say, Boulder Canyon, you can't ski in there, but not let anybody know. Those buoys are like the road signs of a highway. And they're specifically international standards, and we follow those along with the Park Service. It's standard throughout the United States. So those will be actually marked, and they can look at them. A circle means a regulatory, a diamond means a danger area, so everyone has a meaning to it. So, and we publish that information in all of our material that we give out to the public, plus people that have to take our boating education class, that's all in there. So most people are aware of it. They just see a buoy a lot of times, and they just don't pay attention to it. They don't stop to read it because some of those are very dangerous areas. A lot of people we get to go in the swim beach. It's got a diamond on it. Well, a diamond means you don't go there. But guess what? They still go there. Well, I didn't know what that meant, but we try to educate them. We give them information. It's kind of like trying to educate them on road signs sometimes.
Other commissioner questions or comments at this time? Dave, I guess I just had one, and I would assume I know the answer to this, but you know what they say about assuming, and this early in the morning, that's a dangerous precedent to
Well, I'm
set.
kind of waking up myself here, so.
So I assume that you guys are comfortable with the language that came back from LCB in terms of towing a person on water skis, surfboard, or inflatable or similar device, that covers the gamut of what you're concerned with?
And we do feel that similar device kind of covers a lot of things. Like I said, there are some new devices that are coming out there, probably not specifically to this, that we may have to come back to the commission in regards to some safety concerns. But the purpose of this regulation, it covers the majority of those. The majority of our problem runs with people that are pulling tubes. You can call them a circular tube, or they call them water weenies, that they're big, long devices. They have 7 or 8 people on them. There's even these one devices that you can have that are kind of a square, and they actually start flying in the air. But the Consumer Protection Board has kind of looked at those and said, hey, we don't really want you to manufacture those because we've had a ton of injuries on those. And they're looking at pushing those away, so hopefully they'll kind of deteriorate and move out of the system. But we've had our own cases of those causing a number of injuries. August is a great month for towable injuries. I don't know what it is, but everybody goes towing, and all of our boat accidents, probably about 75% of them occur in the month of August. It's a freak thing.
Anything else at this time? Seeing no other commission comments or questions, Dave, don't leave, but any public comment on Commission General Regulation 439, water ski towable devices? No public comment. How about cabs? Any cabs have comment? I think we did get their action reports, but Paul, I'm looking at you. Thanks.
For the record, Paul Dixon, Chairman Clark. I tend not to come up when we had unanimous vote and support, but I mean, everybody was very much in agreement. And for us, boating safety out on Lake Mead, which is one of the big recreational things, is big. And so making sure that that's done safely, and then what allows people some people tend to fish in those areas that we take off with towable devices. And so I got feedback from people like that they were happy that this was sitting in there because it would make certain areas much safer to go fishing. You don't generally fish out in the middle of the lake where you're towing around people. You do it around the shore, so thanks.
Any other cabs, public, on water skis? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. Any recommended changes, last-minute questions, comments, or concerns on this? Okay.
I'd just say, listening to Dave regale about his 28 years on the lake yesterday and all his stories, I think that he's the guy to make these kind of recommendations. And
Thank you.
it's good listening to some of the rescues and stuff that you've done. You've had a remarkable career out there. Saved a lot of people's lives too.
Thank you.
It's pretty evident.
I would agree. So with that, what I will do is I will close the workshop on Commission General Regulation 439 water ski towable devices, LCB file number R10814, and we will carry forward the same version that we got today into the next time we have this agendized. So with that, I would open up Commission Agenda Item number 8, Commission General Regulation 444, Laughlin Fisherman's Access, LCB file number R086-14. Commission Game Warden Captain David Fiffner.
Okay, I'm up again. This area, this next regulation, I guess I got to use this PowerPoint thing, so I'm sometimes technologically challenged, so. Just turned on there. How do you do that? Okay, I don't know if any of you have ever went to the Laughlin area, but just north of the riverside, there's a boat ramp area that is actually owned by the department. It's called Fisherman's Access. Several years ago, actually about 3 years ago, we did a number of improvements there. That area is owned by the department, but it's managed by the Riverside Casino and has been managed by them since about the early 80s. And every 25 years or so, they come back to us and ask for an extension of their agreement. This time they came back and asked us for this extension, and we said fine, but we had a number of issues there. The facility was becoming run down. The ramp had always had problems. It wasn't long enough, especially when there's a great fluctuation of the water there. So we wanted to extend that ramp. So what we did is we worked out an agreement with the Riverside. They funded the project. We had our engineers oversee the project, but the Riverside paid completely for that. We widened the ramp into 2 usable, viable public ramps. And then what we did was we built on the same ramp, as you can see there off to the left side, is what we call the enforcement ramp, where we use for our enforcement boats, can come in there, launch, don't have to stand in line. If there's an emergency situation at the lake, they can go directly to that ramp. They don't have to move anybody out of there because they're over on the public side. We have docking space there. We put a restroom in there. Laughlin's people always give me a hard time. It's cost us like, I don't know, $60,000 to $70,000 to move that restroom down to the bottom of the hill so it was viable for the boaters instead of the transients up on top of the hill that was using it. So anyway, and like I said, we did about $3 million worth of improvements, along with a number of improvements to our office. We kind of combined that in there. So it really updated our facilities all the way around. But with that came, if you build it, they'll come. So it's one of the few free ramps that are on the river, and it's probably the best ramp on the river now. So with that, as you can see there, just to give you an overview of this first slide is the right side is the public ramp, and the left side is the enforcement side. And this was one of the holiday weekends. And this river area is probably one of our busiest and one of our most accident prone areas. So these facilities are very beneficial to our enforcement staff. Let's see if this will work. What we're asking for is, in this, is these areas that we have in yellow during the busy time, because we did extend that ramp, there's a lot of cement area. We also, I don't know if you see it, off to the left is a dike area, so it makes that water flat water. There's not a fast current as it is out in the middle. So this becomes a natural swimming pool for individuals that don't boat. But the problem it is, we have people that's trying to launch their boats with propellers. We're trying to get in there for enforcement purposes to, get somebody out of there that's injured or bring an ambulance down there. So our regulations were not clear for this area, so we're asking for that these areas be closed to swimming and make it clear. We've had a number of regulations since the early 90s that specifically pertain to this access area, like you can't park a bus there, you can't camp there, you can't do a number of things, and these are a couple of additional regulations. So we don't have an injury that we kind of created because we made a better facility, and now they're using it as a kind of a on-the-water swimming pool is what it's kind of mounted to. The second part of this regulation is in doing this remodel, we have a public dock, which is the lower dock closest to the ramp. People can come in there, they can park their boats, go up to their cars. They can't be there for long periods of time. And then we also have an enforcement dock. And what we're trying to do is eliminate people coming onto the enforcement dock. We have some signs that say do not use, but we don't have a regulation to really enforce that. And what's happening is people are using our enforcement dock when we need to bring in injured people or we make an arrest on the lake. We need to leave our boat there so we can walk over to our truck with a guy that's in custody and then drive him up to the jail facilities of the Metropolitan Police Department. So we need that dock and the availability of that dock, but we don't have a way to really accept the general trespass laws, and the judge in the area has not looked at that as a trespass issue. He kind of advises, well, you guys need to clean this up. So this is our way to look at cleaning this up so people will stay off this dock and will have access at all times. And this is kind of the dock area in the yellow section that we're talking about right there. And that's where we've had several of our issues with our enforcement people. So in a nutshell, like I said, you build it, they will come, and that's exactly what's happening. Sometimes we get them, and we don't make a big deal about it if it's in the middle of the fall or winter when usage is way down and the river's way down, you can't really get a boat. We have people fishing off those docks. If it's during the summer, high-use boat times, we try to move them along so they don't interfere with the boating public, and we definitely don't want people swimming off those docks, these two docks, because the current is so swift. A lot of times people launch their jet skis, they'll come up to the dock, the current's so swift, they'll push them into those docks. In fact, on those docks, on the upper ends, we have these specific cages, as I call them, that the boats can't go under the docks. In our old dock that was there, we consistently had problems where jet skis would go into that dock, and all of a sudden you'd lose the person. It's like, I got like 5 seconds. If they come up in 5 seconds, they live. If they're under more than 5 seconds, they're probably not going to make it. And it's a consistent problem all the way down the river. So we've kind of eliminated that on our own systems when we redid this facility.
Questions or comments? Commissioner Lane?
I'm looking at this and I don't see any signage there that indicates that, and you know, maybe it's someplace else, but if you're coming in, I don't see anything there to indicate that it shouldn't be used. And even if we change this, I don't think that's going to solve your problem, just because it may be easier for you to cite a person, but it doesn't seem to me that this is going to solve the problem of people, if you don't want them to use it. You know, maybe you need have you looked at either better signage or something else there that makes it very clear to people that it's not to be used?
We do have some signage, but we have no regulation in place to say they can't go there at this point. So we can't sign them because we're kind of, you know, basically we're lying to them. We're going, hey, you can't go on the dock. And they go, well, why can't I? Well, I just made it up. You know what I mean? So we have no regulation to allow us to keep those people off there, and that's what we're asking for at this point. So once the regulation is passed, if it passes in the next meeting, then we'll go back to the riverside and we'll put in official signs, big signs. I'm not saying it's going to keep everybody off there, but it will keep probably 75% of those people off there. And we'll have it properly signed, law enforcement dock, do not park here, public dock, we'll have an arrow pointing there. And we also have, which I didn't bring a picture of, we have a big sign that the Riverside has put together for us in regulatory form that's farther up in the park. Unfortunately, when people come to the lake, I don't know if you ever spent any time in a boat ramp, the last thing they want to do is read anything. All they want to do is get that boat in the water and go, because they understand everything. So it's hard to get them to read those signs. But on that dock, when they're coming in, because you can't come in at a fast speed because the current is very swift. So you have to you have to know what you're doing. If you come in from the upper end, you're not going to make it into that dock. You have to come from the lower end and use that current to get in that dock. So they have to be at a fairly slow speed. So at that time, we'll have that. Sure, they'll probably unload a few people there. We don't care about that. We're not going to be the dock police there. But if we come in there and somebody's in there and they go, I'm not moving, we got an injured person in that boat, we have the ability to be able to handle that situation once we take care of the injured person.
Other questions or comments? Commissioner Bliss.
Thank you, Chairman Drew. Dave, are these the only 2 boat docks on the Nevada side of the river down there?
There are other boat docks that are on the Nevada side, but they're all private docks. They're docks that are connected with the hotels. So there's no other public docks. State Parks has Big Bend State Park. There's a launch ramp that's there. It's quite a ways down the river, probably from this location. It's 6-7 miles. And they have kind of a small lagoon. They got very fortunate, so they don't have the swift water, but they only have a dock right at the launch ramp, as we do. You noticed in the first picture where we're asking about the closure of the swim area. But other than that, they're all private docks, normally used for the casino boats, the pontoon boats, to unload passengers and such. But there's not a lot of public docks. There's a few on the Arizona side, but they're all at the ramps. Okay. And there's a number of private docks on the Arizona side because there's houses right up to the water, and they're connected with the homes.
Right. And I think it answers it in this regulation in section 1, the very first sentence, where it gives the legal description. But in number 7, where it says swimming or bathing in any water around a dock or boat ramp, or using a dock or boat ramp to swim or bathe, that's pretty general. I don't know, that particular sentence is pretty general, but is it only pertaining to these 2 boat docks?
These facilities. That's it. That whole regulation is just the fisherman's access.
Okay.
It does not pertain to any private docks. It does not pertain to Big Bend State Park. If they wanted to do something, or if the casinos came to us and said, hey, I got a problem with swimmers or whatever, we would have to come back to you for a regulation in regards to that.
Okay, yeah, I figured it was that, but I just wanted to make sure.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other? Commissioner Johnston.
Thank you, Chairman Drew. I guess I have a question on this Section 7. I understand it's limited to the Laughlin boating and fishermen's access, but it says swimming or bathing in any water around a dock or boat ramp, which would then be that access area. I mean, are you comfortable that's definitive enough? I mean, that just seems hopelessly vague to me as to what is around a dock or boat ramp, even when we're talking about this particular fisherman access, the Laughlin fisherman access and boat ramp, that it seems to me should be a distance or something more defined than around.
We feel comfortable with it. It's been to LCB. We had a few discussions with them in regards to it. Sometimes when you get too specific, then you kind of go to the other end. But we feel comfortable with it. I'll be honest with you, if it seems to, the only issue that we'll have is with the court. We somewhat ran it by the judge that oversees that area, but judges change every 4 years, and he seemed to be comfortable with it. So if we have issues, we may be back, but I think, in my opinion, that this will cover our issues that we have. Basically, this is for the public safety. We'll have signage. That'll take care of 75%. That 25% that doesn't want to pay attention to the signage, then we'll ask them to leave, but we have the backing then under our enforcement powers to be able to remove them and get them out of there. I mean, it's a very dangerous area, especially the swimming area at the ramp. You're launching those boats with props going and stuff, and prop chops are about the worst thing that you ever want to see. I've dealt with them, and it's it's a situation that is incomprehensible if somebody gets struck by those. So we definitely want to keep people out of there, and this will give us the ability to keep them out of there. We're not looking at citations, we just want the ability to be able to remove those people so some serious accident doesn't occur. And it keeps the ramps free.
Right, I appreciate that. I want to address the public safety issue as well. I just am concerned that potentially this regulation doesn't do it with this vague language of around. But, you know.
We'll have to see, I guess, at this point, because that's kind of what our attorneys came back to us. And I understand your concern, and sometimes I always think it needs to be a little bit stronger, and I'm told, no, you need to do it this way. I've had several of those come back to me. I try to angle it so we won't have any issues, and they go, no, you can't be that specific.
Other comments or questions? So you're comfortable, just to be clear, the way this is written before us today, you're comfortable with the way the language is?
I am comfortable, and I ran it by most of our enforcement staff that works there too. It's like, hey, do you guys feel comfortable? Because if you don't have the enforcement guy, it's kind of like, yeah, that's good, you know, or I understand that. And they felt comfortable, and like I said, we ran it by the judge quickly, but we did run it by him, and he seemed to be comfortable with it. And LCB, I know it's kind of broad, but sometimes we like to see these things broad. You know, if we ever added a dock or whatever, if we get down to this enforcement dock, they go, what's the enforcement? You know, then they start nitpicking it together, so.
Okay. Anything else before I take it out? All right, County Advisory Board comment. I didn't see anything that popped up in the comments that came back. And then I'm almost ready for a public service announcement. I'll get right to it. Okay, seeing none, public comment. This is an action or an item that we will take public comment on. Any public comment? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. Mr. Johnson or any other commissioners, any suggested wording changes, or are we comfortable moving this out of workshop as is?
I'd like to see the language changed. I understand everyone's comfortable with it. I just think it needs to be a little more specific, and I don't know what the distance would be from that. If we're trying to address a public safety issue, let's address the public safety issue, not have it back here because someone potentially thought, I don't know. I think it's a very vague regulation. So, I'll defer to the department. They're comfortable with it. If that's the way that people want to go, then we can move forward that way. I do think that phrase that came back from LCB is just a little too vague.
If you would want to put a distance on it, I mean, we can look at putting that distance and making that change. It's obviously not that difficult to do, but we can look at a distance. Most of the swimming is where we're going to really encounter it is when we put docks in there. It was at that dock at the boat ramp. So there's really not any distances in there. That's going to be in that, if you go back to that first slide that I had, it's going to be in that confined area. Because honestly, if somebody tries to swim from these docks here, they're going to be at the riverside in about 2 minutes, clear down there, because the current is that fast. So we could put like 500 feet, but quite honestly, as soon as they step their foot in the water, they're going to be at the riverside. That's what happens, like if a jet ski breaks down, they're at the riverside before we can even jump in our boat to go catch them. And then it's a situation. So really the biggest swimming issue that we have is that dock right in the confines of the launch ramp. It's not really these docks here. It was, yeah, the prior, I don't know if I can get back to it, let's see. Right in here is the majority of the problems. That's probably about 90% of the problem right there, because that's only flat water. And when I say flat water, there's no current. You have that large dike right there that stops the current, and it's a great place to launch your boat, but it's also a great place because all that underneath, there's no rocks, there's no sand, it's flat cement. So it's like, oh, I'll just wander down in here, and you know, Laughlin, you know, it's 120 degrees, it's a great place to cool off, and the temperature of the water is probably 70 degrees. So it's kind of like, let me just go cool off, or unfortunately take a bath there for some people. I mean, it ends up one of those areas. So the distances wouldn't really help us in this because we'd have to close that whole area.
Commissioner Young?
I'll just say from my experience, boating down there for a lot of years, people pull up with their boat and then they jump off their boat right around the dock, and it's more of a judgment call. And I think the distance is kind of hard to do. It's the approach the approach to the dock, and it varies by wind and how busy it is. And I think you guys got plenty of latitude with this and to make a good judgment call. It's pretty difficult to do the distances because of the different conditions that are out there, and that current is very, very strong. So I agree with Dave on it, so, and their generalization of it.
Okay, so our options are to basically come out of workshop as is, or ask the department to develop a distance. Druthers by the commission. As is? All right,
I think with that explanation, move forward as is, yes.
okay. Dave, you good with that?
I'm good with that.
All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna close agenda item number 8 and the workshop on CGR 444 Laughlin Fisherman Access. And when we bring this back, we will bring it back as presented to us today. And with that, I am going to take a 10-minute break. It's 9:25. I'm gonna give everyone till 9:35. And before everyone leaves, we do have a public service announcement to make based on parking. So I wanna give everyone a couple minutes to take care of a situation if they have to. So, Miss, thank you for waiting. Could you please let us know what the issue is?
Good morning, you guys. So, as you guys know, there's a bike event going on right now, and one of our county employees mistakenly moved a gate. So, everyone who's parked in the county parking, we need you guys to move your cars over to where the mall parking entrance is, just because we don't want anybody's cars to get towed over there, and you guys don't know where your car is. So if you did park in a county spot, we need you to move your car over to the mall parking. Yes.
The gentleman outside, the construction workers, said as long as we park under the, the covered parking, we're out of the way. Where you would, charge an electric vehicle, so that's where we moved we moved a couple of vehicles. They
Okay.
said those spots are clear.
Okay.
All right,
Yeah,
so is
I
that
just
okay
know
with
they're
you?
trying to put tents up over there and
No,
stuff.
not
so-
there, not in that area.
Okay.
So we just have to just hop them right over. So you could where you charge an electric vehicle.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be okay.
Okay?
Yeah. All right.
If we
So.
need to take a handicap spot, is that okay?
Yes,
too?
you can take
Okay,
a handicap
so we
spot.
can take
Nobody's gonna get towed over there.
So anyone parked back here is in trouble unless they're under a covered area, is that what
Yeah,
I'm?
and that covered area is really small, so it only fit like 20, 30 cars.
Okay, so we're gonna take a little bit of an extended break, cause that's bigger than I thought.
Grand Central Parkway.
So let's come back at 9:40.